Welcome back. All right, so I haven't reviewed a wrestling show in a long time. I'm going to review the May 31st edition of Dynamite. And I know there'll be people going, why don't you review the WWE shows? Because the WWE shows, I don't like, there's individual segments that are great. Like anything Bloodline related is absolutely fantastic, knock it out of the park. But it is tough to get through a lot of the rest of it, especially with Raw being 3 hours. There is at least an hour's worth of filler material where they're like, hey, remember when this happened earlier? Don't forget, this happened 10 minutes ago. Hey, did you see what just happened in the ring? We did, we saw it. So I don't find that there's as much of that with AEW. It's pretty straightforward. There's more matches, but there is something that's definitely changed with AEW now, comparatively speaking, to 3 years ago, right? And it really is a matter of this is a company now where there's clearly main eventers, there's clearly mid card guys and your openers, and it definitely feels like there's a hierarchy so that the matches are more predictable now than they were. And I know people say, well, they were always predictable. It just feels like it's more predictable now than it used to be. So, anyways, this was from San Diego. Pretty good crowd tonight, I thought. I thought they were pretty into this. Moxley comes out first with the Blackpool Combat Club in tow to the song Wild Thing. If they really want Moxley to be a heel, they have to change his music. And I say that because these guys come out, and there's no difference between the way they come out as heels than the way they come out as faces. And so I mean, the crowd's going to root for them. I know they're more violent. I know what they do backstage and all that, but still, they're still behaving the same way as they did when they were faces. So, Lucha Brothers and Bandito, or Lucha Bros, sorry, and Bandito come out, so that's your opponent. And I put right here, they're taking the L. Like, there was no way the BCC are losing. So, this is part of the issue I have with watching the show now. This is a 20-minute match because the opening match is usually 20 minutes. But when you know at the start of that 20-minute match who's gonna win, it can be harder for that match to keep your attention, right? So lots of brawling before the bell as well, and then there was a false finish where Bandito got like 2 3/4 on Wheeler Yuta, and then of course Yuta ends up pinning Bandito shortly thereafter while there's a bunch of chaos going on, and Danielson comes in to raise the hand of Wheeler Yuta. Brian Danielson was on the commentary for this one. He's a good commentator, he is, but it kind of feels like with this group they're setting up something with the Elite again. The Elite were backstage minus Kenny Omega. The interesting thing is too that they said, well, we're here, meaning the Blackpool Combat Club, and the Elite aren't here tonight. And I thought, okay, but they're showing us a backstage segment right after, so they're there. And so I did get a kick out of two. Nick Jackson's foot hurts because he got dropped barefoot onto thumbtacks. Thumbtacks, he'd be better a couple days later. But they're playing it off that he couldn't stand up. But there's Adam Page saying, we're still all standing here. And I'm thinking, not poor Nick Jackson. He can't stand up because his foot hurts. But at any rate, and then the Dark Order interrupts, I guess, because Adam Page is, cheating on him or whatever. It's odd. So Adam Page goes off to talk to them. I don't know. The Dark Order is a group that I think if they had been handled properly from the beginning could have been either a genuine threat as bad guys or they could have been awesome as good guys and really over. But the thing is, no matter what the wrestling company is, you need the victories, you need the results, and the Dark Order really hasn't been there. Evil Uno is a very good wrestler. I think he's a good speaker as well. And yet, he's kind of mired in that sort of a mid-card range, right? So there's that. And then we get to one of what's many segments. So you have Shivani in the ring, Jay White and Juice Robinson come out to join him. They talk about Starks and FTR. Well, you've mentioned FTR. So FTR come out, they get beat up. They never said a word. So it was weird. These guys are talking on the mic. And I thought the nice thing was, you have Jay White saying, hey, would you guys like to join Bullet Club Gold? Eventually they should. FTR's members of Bullet Club, and you can get kind of a four horseman thing going with White and Juice Robinson. And we know that this company absolutely loves to have as many factions as possible, which can work as long as the factions don't get too big, right? So FTR gets beat up, and then Ricky Starks kind of makes the save after. and challenges Jay White for next week. So next week it'll be Jay White versus Ricky Starks. And there's no hockey game next Wednesday, so yeah, I can watch this next Wednesday and recap it again, depending on how people feel this goes, depending on the numbers the video does, and all that fun stuff. So then they have Tony Khan with a Collision announcement. The less he's on TV, the better. He may be a great guy, and I know that, there's some deep pockets in the Khan family, and he's been great for wrestling, but his speaking is not, it's not wrestling level. So he makes the announcement that CM Punk will be on the first episode of Collision in Chicago. Yep. So there had been rumors that they were looking at holding the first show somewhere else because they didn't think they'd get CM Punk there. There was like a lawsuit rumor, but clearly whatever was going on, that's been cleared up. So CM Punk will be on the first episode of Collision. Interestingly, the crowd hearing that announcement, very split. I thought there were more boos than cheers, but as soon as Cult of Personality hits in Chicago, we know that building's going to absolutely explode. They could play this off where CM Punk doesn't have to be a good guy. He doesn't have to be a bad guy. He can just come out and beat everybody up and hate everybody. And I think that can work. I absolutely think it could be a Stone Cold light kind of, and I say light because nobody can be Stone Cold. But they could do that where he doesn't really have friends and he's just kind of against everybody. Play it up. And then we had Trent Beretta versus Big Bill versus Swerve Strickland, meaning Beretta has to eat the pin. Swerve ends up winning. Swerve gets a shot next week at the International Champion, who is, of course, Orange Cassidy. I wouldn't mind Swerve beating him, to be honest. Like, I feel like Cassidy's done really well with that title, and he's defending it all the time. But I think for Strickland, that'd be great to put a title on him. And then, yeah, you can have Keith Lee have a feud with him, and you can have a belt involved, and go from there. Again, I don't have anything bad to say about Orange Cassidy and his reign, but I think giving it to Swerve Strickland would make some sense. And then Renee Paquette interviews the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. And my wife left me hanging. I asked her, I said, will you scissor me? And I was doing and she, no. And she kept saying, no, I will not. I was like, come on, if you love me. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. No scissoring here apparently. So I had told her, I said, do I need to get one of those t-shirts? She's like, please don't. So I will order one of the t-shirts. At any rate, so that was the thing that happened, and then Tony Schiavone's in the ring. There's a lot of segments today, talking to Don Callis and Takeshita. And I mean, it was fine. Don Callis, the heat on him right now is nuclear. So the crowd clearly very Kenny Omega pro. And then when Takeshita speaking, now we have closed captions on our TV because we have kids. At times they talk over everything, and there's times where you might want to have the volume down for whatever reason. So you have the closed captions on, and all it said when Takeshita spoke was speaking alternate language. It's Japanese closed captions. It's Japanese. It's not an alternate. Speaking alternate language makes it sound like he made it up. He made it up. Him and Don Callis have their own language. They've made up other. So that might have been the funniest thing I saw. Then you have Gates of Agony against Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. A coffin drop wins it for Darby Allin. I was thinking of this one too, watching this match, and I thought it was pretty well done, although the Gates of Agony, seriously, if you're going to do spots where Orange is in between the two guys and he's going to get out of the way and they're going to collide, they've got to get that into a better rhythm, because Cassidy steps out of the way, and there's no way that these guys had to collide after. They easily could have just stopped and glared at him. They didn't. So I'm like, okay, so he's intentionally running his own partner over. And I was also thinking during that match about, man, if Vince McMahon was booking this, Gates of Agony would just destroy them. That match would last maybe a minute and a half. Vince would look at the size of the guys on one side and the non-build of the guys on the other side and go, yeah, no, this should be like Road Warriors versus Mulkey Brothers. This should be over in 3 seconds. And this is going to be some good S-word. That's what he'd say about that. But it is one of the reasons why you have smaller wrestlers in AEW. I think they're given a better chance, which is fine. I don't think that because wrestling is staged, I don't think size makes that big of a difference. But in that match, yeah, it was interesting too because then of course Swerve and the guys come down to try to maybe beat up the winners, but Sting comes out with the bat in hand, prevents the post match shenanigans from taking place. So Sting's still over. The crowd went nuts when his music played. I thought it was nice. The Darby Allin Sting partnership has been really good, I think, for both wrestlers. And they've done a good job of making sure that Sting is front of mind. He's out there and they're protecting him. They're not putting him in a situation where he's going to look old or slow. Although he is not a young man anymore, but you wouldn't know it because he wears face paint. That's the beauty of face paint. I'm eventually going to end up having face paint when I do YouTube videos. I just have to like gradually work it in so that, a month down the road, people are going to go, when did Shannon start wearing face paint? Was that because he's wearing it? The last 5 videos, I just realized he's wearing face paint. Anyways, makes you look younger. So Shivani's then in the ring again, which I think they did this too much tonight. Okay, this was too much. He's joined by Hook and then Vance, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it was. Two guys are beating up Hook, and out comes Jungle Boy to make the save slowly. What I get a kick out of with this one is that he comes out with a chair in hand, but he's just kind of strolling. His music plays, and he's just kind of strolling, like, yeah, I'll make the save. I'll get there when I get there. Now, I'm also going to make a bit of a prediction here. The Hook and Jack Perry partnership, I don't think it's going to last. I think they've been toying with the idea of turning Jungle Boy heel, and I think it's going to happen. And I think it's going to happen at the expense of Hook. I think he's going to either be jealous of Hook, or they'll have some storyline figured out where it's like, well, he got further than I did in less amount of time. But I do think he's going to turn. I'm honestly kind of surprised they didn't turn him at the pay-per-view. Maybe there were too many people who expected it, and so they didn't pull the trigger at Double or Nothing. But yeah, I was kind of surprised that he, like when he was standing in the ring and he had the chair in his hand, was I the only one that thought, he could totally smoke Hook and nobody would see that coming. And it would immediately mean nuclear level heat for Jack Perry as well. So not yet. Not yet. Then they had a backstage interview with Tony and the Outcasts, a new rock band that they're starting up. I'm kidding, of course. Of course, the Outcasts are the former Ruby Riott. You have Tony Storm, same name she had in WWE. Saraya, who used to be Paige in WWE, using her real name now. And I do like the Outcasts, but I feel like there's something that's a little bit stale there. So I hope that gets dealt with. I also found it ironic that Tony was talking about working house shows this weekend and being a fighting champion, and she doesn't wrestle tonight. So I thought that was odd. So then they had Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose for the TBS title. Nyla is the one you go through first. It seems like I'm pretty sure Jade Cargill, that was her first feud with that title, was against Nyla. It's not a feud between Chris Statlander and Nyla. It's a good matchup for Statlander. Physically, they're roughly the same size, and Nyla's the type that she can eat the pin, but she can also look strong in the ring too, right? So they showed Taya, of course, watching backstage. Taya's turning heel. If she hasn't already, she will, because Statlander needs an opponent, and apparently Jade Cargill's taken some time off, and when she returns, the plan is, from what I've heard, the plan is going to be to turn her face and get, the crowd behind her. So Statlander won, and I have to say she looked good. She's been out of the ring for a long time. This was her first long match, and I think they said 9 months. So yeah, I thought she looked good. I've always been a fan of Chris Statlander. I think now that they've dropped the alien gimmick that she had, and she's just got like her natural hair and not the weird green face paint, she's not booping people. I think it works. I honestly think Statlander has a ton of potential. I think she's a legit champ. I think that if she was in WWE, I think she'd be an excellent challenger for any champion in that company. So yeah, I think they did well. And then they go to the main event, which is Britt Baker and Adam Cole versus Saraya and Chris Jericho. Now, this is one of those rarities where you have two matches that feature women on the same Dynamite show. This is a mixed tag match, though. The one thing that I found funny in this match was they tried to do the hot tag where the guys are just crawling over to make the tag, and I'm thinking, well, wait, if they're both crawling to make the tag, it doesn't matter who gets there first, because as soon as one makes the tag, the other woman in this match is immediately legal. So why are we doing the hot tag spot? Anyways, so Judas is still way over, and this is another thing. So I mentioned Wild Thing for John Moxley. If Jericho wants to really and truly be over as a heel, he has to use a different song. The whole crowd sings along with Judas. I think it's a good song too. I would sing along with it if I was there. But it does make things a little more challenging in terms of making him the bad guy, making people hate him. And there was an attempt for the Outcast to get involved, and Sheeta came out. It doesn't matter. Honestly, I didn't take anywhere near the amount of notes that I did when I used to do these shows, because I feel like a lot of what happens in the match is just what happens in the match, and it's the post-match stuff that makes the biggest difference. So, although I love Hikaru Shida as well, and the more that she gets attention, I think the better. I do think this company at times has been a little too focused on some of the former WWE wrestlers, and I do think there are times where they need to focus more on the homegrown talent, which that balance has been pretty good the last couple of months. So maybe they figured it out, maybe somebody explained it to them, but either way, um, Jericho was getting over, like the crowd was starting Y2J chants. So Jericho trips Britt Baker, and I thought, okay, that's a good spot to make sure the crowd boos him, right? Because he's touching a woman, you can't do that. And then they went right to picture in picture, and I thought that's an odd spot for that spot. Like if you're gonna have Jericho tripping Britt, and you're gonna have that heat magnet moment, why do that right before the commercial break? So that they go into the rest holds and all the stuff they do during the commercial. The match won't end during the commercial, right? So I also have to mention too that Saraya, former Paige from WWE, I really hope her neck's 100%, because she got dropped on her neck and her head multiple times in this match. And again, these are moves she's agreeing to. These are moves that Britt's a very good wrestler. I'm not saying she's an unsafe worker, but knowing Saraya's injury history, it really makes me nervous seeing her take those shots. And then, the crowd's still rooting for Jericho. You still hear Y2J chants. And then Britt comes in, and it felt like I don't know if this was an audible or if this was planned. If they knew backstage, okay, the crowd's probably going to start rooting for Jericho. When that happens, we need to have these spots ready. Or if it was an audible, which was, all right, the crowd's cheering for me, get in here. So Britt put the lockjaw on Jericho, and that was one of the loudest cheers of the night. I thought it was great, and honestly, I think wrestling is evolving to the point where we might be able to do mixed wrestling again. We haven't seen that in a long time. You have to handle it correctly. You can have a woman versus a man in a wrestling match and make it work. It is tricky. Women are much smaller, and they don't have the same level of strength, obviously. It'd have to be the right male wrestler and right female wrestler, but I think it can work. I absolutely think it can. And I think that's what we saw tonight with this, is it can work on some level. And then after that, Cole lowers the boom to pin Jericho. I do love Adam Cole and Britt Baker together. I think they're a lot of fun to watch. You can tell they genuinely really like one another. Which again, if you're saying, well, they're a couple, of course. Not really an of course situation. I've been in relationships where you wouldn't know we even like each other if you saw us out in public. So yeah, it is nice to see them together. I do think Britt Baker's better as a heel though, and I'm kind of waiting for her to turn. The problem is, because Cole and Britt are so intertwined in this storyline, it's going to have to wait till this storyline's run its course. Maybe it has. Maybe this ends the feud between Cole and Jericho. Cole needs to be the guy going after Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF was not on this show, which I'm okay with. And it's funny because I know there are people who get mad because MJF isn't on every show. These are people who never watched the Hulk Hogan generation. These are people who never watched back in the old days of the WWF in the 80s. The champion was almost never on TV because then it was something special. So you would hear Hogan's music and the crowd would go nuts because they hadn't seen him in a month or they hadn't seen him in 6 weeks. And so I understand people getting mad about wrestlers, being part-time, or we should see the champion on TV more. I think you should have the champion on the TV just enough that people remember he's the champion, and keep him off TV just long enough that people miss him, so that when that music hits, there's a big reaction. And I don't know with MJF, I don't know if his music draws that reaction. I think MJF's music is okay, but I think they could punch it up a little bit better. One thing we've learned with WWE examples of Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, you got music people can sing along to, like Jericho's. It definitely gets the crowd into it, and it makes it more entertaining. So with MJF, his music is, again, it's okay for wrestling entrance music, but I don't know if it feels like championship, and I'm not sure how that should sound. Probably like a classical, almost along the lines of like Randy Savage had Pomp and Circumstance. Absolutely perfect, worked great. I feel like MJF needs something like that to seem like he is so far above everybody. And it just should feel like almost like he's a William Regal type snob without obviously being William Regal. And there's a tie-in with Regal, of course, and MJF for when Regal exited the company. But yeah, I thought this was a good episode. I was entertained. I was not surprised by any of the results. And that's one thing that I feel like Dynamite doesn't have now that it used to, where you'd see a match and you'd be like, I don't know who's going to win this. And I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like as soon as the matches start up, well, I know who's going to win here. And I think that's a problem. There were no cheat victories tonight, which is good. There's way too many dusty finishes in WWE. There's way too many matches where nothing actually ends up getting resolved's the wrong word, but you don't see a pinfall, you don't see a DQ, or you do see a DQ, and you just don't get anything that makes it feel like the storyline's gone forward very much. So tonight's event I thought was pretty good. I mean, obviously I'm not as into it as I was a few years ago, but I would still say that AEW is still built more for that wrestling crowd. WWE's more built towards the entertainment side of it. Again, the Bloodline storyline is perfect. There is nothing in AEW right now that can compete with the Bloodline story. I think they've tried with the Elite. I think they've tried with what's going on with the Elite and Callis turning on them and all this, but it's not in the same stratosphere. It's nowhere near. And so you can't, and it's odd too, because it feels like the Bloodline storyline in WWE was just one of these organic things that just worked. So you can't force it, but some long-term storytelling works. And just making the crowd really hate the champ or really love the champ, depending whether it's a heel or a face. And then just, lean into that and make it work. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. And, of course, wearing my Britt Baker shirt. I had to go find this one. It's one of my favorites of the AEW shirts that I have. I was going to order more AEW stuff a couple weeks ago, and my card said, no, it wouldn't authorize my card. It's the weirdest thing with my card. Some U.S. businesses, it's fine, and other ones, it's like, nope. And it doesn't matter how much I'm buying. It doesn't matter how little I'm buying. It's just like, no, we've decided we're not going to authorize for that. And I don't even know what you call the bank about, because, like, the card is just hit and miss on what it will or won't authorize. Bizarre. But anyways, there you go. So that's why I'm still relying on old AEW shirts and not the new ones. Because, I mean, the scissoring, right? Who doesn't want a scissoring shirt? Yvonne's really scared I'm going to get demonetized for saying that. So I really hope I don't. But if I do, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. And I might do this with SmackDown as well. On Friday. I haven't decided yet. I could, but we'll see. So because Friday and Wednesday are completed. Wednesday's the middle of the week and nothing's going on. Friday there can be things that are going on. So yeah, we'll see. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.